Hi, everyone. Just letting people get filtered in here. We'll start at a little after 11:30, 11:29 here Central. So just give it a second. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and get this webinar started. If you have any questions, feel free to interrupt at any time, but we're going to kick things off. We'll keep this short, sweet, and to the point. It's not the most exciting, but it is extremely important to know about the new A2P 10DLC compliance related to text messaging compliance and why you need to care. So we'll dive into things. My name is Nate Jones. I am the co-founder and product marketing manager at Structurally. We have a team dedicated to help you with the A2P 10DLC compliance rules. And we're here to explain why you need to start caring more, basically, starting today and moving forward. So kicking things off, we're here to talk about A2P 10DLC. What that stands for is application to peer 10-digit long code. So basically, if you are using a 10-digit long code, so essentially anything that is a local area code phone number or non 1-800 toll-free numbers, you can think it has 10 digits. It's the area code +3 +4. It's 10 digits. Those are your business texting phone numbers. Application to peer means you're typically using an application like a CRM or like Structurally or some other texting product to text a person. I actually might have misspoke here. This could stand for application to person. Some people say peer, but application to peer or person 10-digit long code is what A2P 10DLC stands for. It's extremely important because every business who texts customers must register for A2P 10DLC. It is the law, and there is no way around it. The only way around it, if you do not, or if you want to continue to text your customers, is to not text your customers, unless you want to do so from your personal phone, at which point that is no longer an A2P application to person problem. That's you texting your customers from your phone, which is totally legal, and you don't have to register for A2P 10DLC to do that. But obviously, managing your business texting relationships from your personal phone is not ideal, which is why you look to products like your CRM or like Structurally, which A2P 10DLC is required for. So what is it? What is A2P 10DLC? It is set forth by the carriers. Actually, it's set forth by lawmakers, policymakers. It is a part of the texting compliance laws, but it is brought down to the carriers like Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile. They all have to abide by these new laws. It is also brought down to programmatic texting vendors or programmatic messaging vendors like Twilio, Five9. These are probably names that you may or may not be familiar with, but these are the carriers who basically provide the 10-digit long codes, provide the phone numbers, and provide the infrastructure for applications like Structurally and your CRM to use those phone numbers to text people. And then there is the campaign registry, TCR, which is a third-party intermediary which facilitates the approvals of these A2P 10DLC registrations. So basically, the government set up a separate entity outside of the carriers and outside of the programmatic vendors to help with approving these every business in the world who texts their customers, basically a registration, which we'll get into what that looks like. What does it look like to actually register for A2P 10DLC. Basically, you need to know nothing. If you're using a product like Structurally or your CRM, as long as you give us your W-9 or all the information that's available on it, we will handle the registration process for you. But you should know what that looks like. You should understand what that means so you can be well versed and understand what that process looks like as we go through it on your behalf. But to kick things off, you can provide us your W-9 or all the information on that, and we'll kick things off for you. What we then do is submit your customer profile approval. That's usually pretty quick. Basically, these programmatic vendors like Twilio or Five9 need to verify some basic information, and then we submit your brand approval. This is basically where they say, are you a real business or not? Usually, if you provide your W-9, it's very easy. The first two steps are very easy as long as you're a registered, valid, working, operational business. The fourth step or the third step in the submission process is campaign approval. This one is where things kind of get tripped up. So campaign approval is your messaging use cases reviewed by the TCR, the campaign registry. Remember that third-party entity that reviews these cases, and it's approved or denied. And there's the most compliance around the campaign approval, and it's the most backed up. Just because of the sheer amount of volume, basically every business in the entire world has to go through this process. And there's millions of businesses that are backed up right now and only one campaign registry. So they are taking sometimes upwards of 2 months to just complete your campaign approval, which we'll get into what that means. But this is what the high-level process looks like when we're registering you for A2P 10DLC. What is a campaign? So I said this is kind of the most important part of the A2P 10DLC process. We do this for you again, but what is it? When we register you and your brand, we register you for a specific use case. You can see a number of the use cases here on the right-hand side, starting from something as simple as like two-factor authentication. You know, when you log into something and you get a code sent to your phone, that could be a use case or a campaign. When you're using a product like Structurally, we typically register you as a mixed campaign. And that just means that you or our AI can text customers in both a service and marketing-based approach. Now, that one has a moderate amount of flexibility. Each of these different campaigns has different limits and kind of pros and cons. We found that mixed is the most flexible in that it gives you the most number of messages, and it gives you the most chance, the highest chance at getting approved as well, which is really important. So you can see there are some really like touchy campaign use cases here, like political, charity, marketing even can be kind of frowned upon because the campaign registry, this government agency or agency stood up by the government to facilitate this process, basically wants to see that all of the use cases that are funneling through it, which is basically every text in the world, are not going to be abused. The entire reason for this law coming down the pipeline is so that people aren't abusing text messaging. Basically, they're not getting numbers off the internet and texting them spam. That's why we're kind of here. That's why the government's cracked down on it. We kind of went through this process with email back in the day. There's lots of spam email laws, lots of compliance that went through email back in the day. We're now going through that same process for texting. And this is where the rubber meets the road in campaigns. The campaign registry wants to know what you're texting customers, basically. And the first step in doing that is them understanding the use case or campaign that you're approving. In this step, we actually do have to provide two example messages that we send to the campaign registry as examples of these use cases. We do that for you because all of Structurally's messaging is more or less standardized. So you don't need to just like make up a text message example on the fly. We handle that for you. That's specific to Structurally, but we do provide examples of what these use cases look like to the campaign registry when we submit them. But again, what do we need from you? We handle a lot of this for you, the vast majority, but we do need your W-9 or other information, your legal business, physical address, the type of business, the industry, website URL, where you operate, the owners of the business. And most importantly, is a description of how users opt into receiving text messages. This might be new to those of you listening and to those of you watching later on. Number 8 is a really big important step that we want to highlight here as we are hearing new information from those involved with this policy and compliance. Essentially, is we really need a description of how users opt in to receiving text messages. And what we've heard from our compliance providers is that your website forms must have opt-in language. So if we were like, this might be a shock. I want everyone to take that in for a second, but think about this for a second. Remember the cookie banners that are on all our websites now? You can't go to a website basically without seeing the cookie banner saying, do you accept cookies? Well, that was due to the GDPR laws set forth mostly by some privacy policies in Europe, but that came to the United States as well and worldwide, such that every website on planet Earth basically has a cookie banner now. Well, we are nearing that same point from a compliance perspective with forms. Every form on Earth, from what we hear from our compliance providers, must have a disclaimer or checkbox saying something along the lines of what you see here. This is a great example from one of our users who does it perfectly well. By submitting this form, you agree to our terms of use or privacy policy, and may be contacted by, in this case, DJ and Lindsay Real Estate by phone, text, or email about real estate interests. This is a perfect example of an approved compliance opt-in disclaimer. Now, you can use disclaimers or you can use a checkbox, but it cannot be required. Similar to the cookie banner, you can reject cookies. You can reject opting in to these forms as well. It cannot be required. In fact, it is the law that it cannot be required as well. But I cannot understate this enough. Your forms must have opt-in language. They must. What we've heard from our compliance providers, Twilio and others, which we'll get to, is when we provide your campaign submission, a real human being from the campaign registry will go to your site and look at your forms. And if your forms does not have a disclaimer or opt-in checkbox, you will be denied. So it is that important that you must have these disclaimers or opt-in checkboxes on your forms. This is relatively new knowledge. It is the law. One way or the other, it is the law and has been the law that you need to provide the opt-in consent to your users submitting a form. But this is where the law is starting to crack down, where you will be denied. Your campaign registry will be denied if you do not have this opt-in language. And we'll get to what being denied means in a second, but basically it means you won't be able to text your leads. Your campaign and brand approval will not be registered, and therefore you will not be able to send text messages. So if you get anything from this webinar, please know that your forms must have opt-in consent or a disclaimer from this point forward. So what happens if you do not register or add opt-out language to your businesses, or if you just are denied? What happens if you try and do everything correctly, you submit your information, and it just gets denied? Well, it shouldn't be denied if you've done everything correctly, if you've provided a valid W-9, if you're a valid operating business, if you have valid opt-out language in your text messages and valid opt-in language on your forms. If you do all of those things, you're going to get approved and all will be well. But if you don't do any of those things or one of those things, your text messages will be filtered and your text messages will not be delivered, plain and simple. So you can see an example here. This was one of our customers' text messages who is not approved. And we tried to send a text message through their 10-digit long code phone number. You can see there's a 330 area code phone number that we purchased through Twilio that we tried to send on their behalf using our AI, and that message was undelivered. And it says because message was filtered, the content was flagged as going against carrier guidelines. And that's one of the examples of how a carrier might filter. So there's two levels of filtering here. There's the programmatic vendor. So Twilio, Five9, they may filter your message off the bat if you're not approved. But then carriers can also see your message, see if you're approved or unapproved, and filter it there as well. If you're approved as a brand and a campaign, you can see this top one that says outgoing, the 904 area code number to the 443. That's white, highlighted in white. That message was delivered. That message was sent through a phone number that was registered, through a campaign that was registered. So it went through. So it's really that simple, kind of black and white. If you're registered, your messages should go through. If you're not registered, they're likely going to be filtered out and not delivered to your customer at all. Plain and simple. So what are we at Structurally doing to help ensure your compliance? We do offer a full suite of text messaging compliance. We handle a lot of this complexity for you. You probably don't know about A2P 10DLC, which is why we're here. You probably shouldn't know. You really don't want to know. It's complicated. It's important, but it is the way the world is moving by law. So we are doing a lot to help take that burden off of your plate, but ensuring the highest level of product that we can. One of the ways that we're doing that, which is really unique to Structurally, is we're working with numerous vendors to ensure the most diverse A2P 10DLC experience for you. So most companies these days are typically like picking one vendor, one programmatic messaging vendor, and say, I'm working with you, and that's it. The problem that creates is, Twilio, Telnex, MessageBird, Five9, all these programmatic vendors kind of have different interpretations and experiences of how to deal with the law and the campaign registry, who's the government agency set up to basically approve or deny these registrations. They all have different interpretations of how to work with them. So for example, Twilio is saying, one thing, Telnex is saying another, and MessageBird is saying another. Well, we want the most information at our hands, at our fingertips, to ensure the highest level of success for our customers. So we took an approach to offer 3 interoperable products behind the scenes. You don't need to know about these. If you use Structurally, you're probably not going to know if your phone number is through Twilio, Telnex, or MessageBird, unless you look really closely or we tell you. But it's really important because we will help you get on the platform that will first get you approved as quickly as possible. So for example, we've seen some of Twilio's A2P campaign registrations take up to 2 months to be approved or even reviewed. We've seen Telnex sometimes do that even quicker, and MessageBird do that even quicker. Now, there are some pros and cons to all of them. which is why we're offering all of them. We will work with you to basically start with one of these platforms, get your phone number off or phone numbers off to the races and approved on registered traffic as quickly as possible. If you do want to try something on your own, we do even offer the ability to bring your own Twilio. So if you already are registered for some reason, if you're way ahead of the game and you've registered yourself, you have your own phone numbers, you can actually bring your own Twilio. This only works with Twilio right now. You can bring your own basically credentials and use your own Twilio if you want, but that's kind of a last ditch resort. Or if you're a large enterprise customer and you already have some configuration set up in Twilio that you want to bring over to us, we can support that. Basically, we are in programmatic messaging vendor agnostic, and that helps us diversify how we work with each of these providers through A2P 10DLC so that we give you the best experience all around. So some of the most important dates are coming up, including as of today. As of today, July 5th, according to at least Twilio and some other vendors, unregistered traffic will begin to be filtered out more aggressively. So if you are not registered as a campaign or a brand through whatever platform you're using to text your customers, maybe Structurally, if you're unregistered through Structurally, for example, we have heard that unregistered traffic will begin to be filtered out, meaning the messages just won't be delivered because it knows these, the carriers and the programmatic vendors like Twilio know, is this unregistered traffic or registered traffic? If it's unregistered traffic, they're turning up the notch on not delivering those messages starting today. In turning up the notch, we don't know how much, what percent, but we just know that they're going to be more aggressive in not delivering that unregistered traffic starting today, with the idea that by August 31st of this year, 2023, unregistered traffic may be completely filtered out. So if you, for example, sign up with Structurally on September 1st, and we don't get you approved in 24 hours or so, and you try and send messages through Structurally or whatever product you're using as an unregistered business, those messages most likely will just not be delivered. And that's different than as of today, 7/5, there's a chance that your unregistered traffic might still be delivered even before this. So A2P 10DLC is not necessarily new. It's about a 2-year-old-ish law or compliance regulation. And basically up until this point, it's kind of been a little bit of like a slap on the wrist if you are unregistered and not sending traffic or trying to send traffic, trying to send text messages. Now, that said, we and other companies basically have tried to and will continue to try to approve all businesses as it's the law. But up until this point, it's kind of been a slap on the wrist, a grace period, because millions of businesses have to get registered. But now as of 7/5, as of today, what we're basically hearing is the grace period is closing, and on the 31st, it's over. Every business on earth needs to be registered, or their texts will not be sent through an application like your CRM or Structurally. So now is the crackdown period, and that's why we need to care. Everyone here needs to care. Everyone watching this needs to start to care about A2P. It's not the most fun to care about, but it is the way the world is moving and has already moved to. So you need to know that it exists. Many of you watching probably, if you're using Structurally or if you're using a CRM or another tool that texts your customers, more than likely you're already approved. You have a phone number through some application somewhere where you are probably approved. If you don't know, if you're texting customers through a product where you don't know if you're registered or not, ask your vendor, ask structurally. I can tell you that out of all of our Structurally's customers, only a handful remain unregistered, and we're aggressively moving them towards registered. We always do. As soon as you sign up for Structurally, we ask for your W-9 and submit you immediately. But the problem is the backup. Every business on earth is aware of these two deadlines, and they're trying to submit all of their customers to the campaign registry, and they are backed up beyond belief. So we're waiting months before they can review our newer customers. But that's why we're working with multiple vendors, so that some of them turn around quicker, some of them don't. But we're working with the largest vendors in the space to basically guarantee that you're approved. One question that we've heard a lot from our customers is, can we move around our registrations? Basically, like if you're approved on CRM XYZ and you want to cancel them and move to Structurally for texting, and you were approved on the original product, can we port your registration approval over to Structurally? The answer is right now, no. Even if you have the ability to port your phone number over, which is common, it's not unheard of. It is possible. Many people have a phone number or a set of phone numbers that they want to port over to another application, like, for example, your Google Voice number into Structurally. That's possible, but your campaign registration is not portable. Your phone number may be portable, but your campaign registration is not portable. It has to do with your use cases. Remember, we talked about campaigns. Your campaign, or at least what the campaign registry, from what we've heard, is worried about, is that maybe your use case on, for example, Google Voice is different than your use case on Structurally, which is a very valid and fair reason. So that's why we understand right now that your campaign approval is not portable. So if you sign up for Structurally today, even if you're an approved business through your CRM, we're still going to submit you through Structurally's A2P 10DLC compliance for that very reason. So in summary, to wrap things up, this was short and sweet, although maybe not the most fun. In summary, every business who texts customers must register for A2P 10DLC. Registration as of today, 7/5/2023, may take up to 2 months. We do hope to see that time is reduced. It's just because they have a backlog of the entire world who's trying to get approved right now. We do hope to see that time get reduced. And then number 3, businesses can provide Structurally with their W-9, and registration and compliance is handled for you. We do it for you. Structurally works with a variety of vendors to ensure the highest level of quality in our A2P 10DLC compliance and text message deliverability. Like I said, right now we're working with 3 unique programmatic messaging vendors: Twilio, Telnex, and MessageBird. We plan to add more because we want to offer even more diversity. But the reason for that is because their interpretation of how to work with the campaign registry and these compliance laws are all different. And some of them turn things around quicker and in different ways and provide us more information and insights into the process. So we want to give those to you as well. Most businesses do not work with a variety. Most work with one and one only. So it's unique to Structurally in that we work with multiple. And as of 7/5/2023, today, unregistered business will begin to get their text messages filtered out. And by August 31st, 2023, unregistered businesses may have all their text messages filtered out. So that's why you need to start caring today. If you don't know what A2P 10DLC is, hopefully you've learned what it is from this webinar. We'll have more supporting materials to help you understand what that is, but at least on Structurally's behalf, you should see a banner in your Structurally account on whether you are or not approved for A2P 10DLC as of today. And if you are not yet approved, you should see like a red banner, or you should have gotten an email in the past few weeks, or in the past week, saying that you are not approved. If you are not approved, you can rest assured that you have been you've been submitted. But what we're hearing is either you don't have opt-in language on your website and you've been denied, or they haven't reviewed your case yet, as they are in some cases 2 months out. We are continuously refreshing your applications as soon as they're denied, as soon as they may be denied, and monitoring their status every day. In some cases, we're even submitting your campaign use cases through the multiple vendors that we're working. So we'll submit you through Twilio, Telnex, and MessageBird if we can't get them turned around quickly. So we're doing everything in our power to make sure that if you aren't registered, you are registered, because as of today, filtering gets more aggressive. And by the 31st of August, it becomes basically, if you aren't registered, you're not sending text messages. So if you have any questions about A2P, you can reach out to help@structurally.com. We have a full A2P text messaging compliance team. Be on the lookout for more supporting materials for A2P, as basically these deadlines are putting this first and foremost in our sites at Structurally, to make sure that we can continue to send text messages on your behalf, as is what most of our product does. And reach out to help@structurally.com if you feel that you aren't registered, or you're worried about your registration, or just have questions. But for now, that is all we have on A2P 10DLC and why you need to start caring. Thanks for everyone's time, and let us know if you have questions. Bye.